Welcome, everybody, to Out of Bounds here on SportsTownChicago.com. I am Robert Tatka, and joining me at this time is the play-by-play man for the Tampa Bay Lightning on television on Fox Sports Sun. That'd be Rick Peckham. Rick, thanks for joining us here on SportsTownChicago.com and Out of Bounds. It's an honor to have you.
Robert, it's great to be with you.
All right, Rick, now, you've been the television voice of the Lightning since 1995. You've seen and called some of the highs and lows of the franchise. How exciting is it to see this team make it to the Stanley Cup final?
Well, with the team winning the Stanley Cup in '04, that was 11 years ago. I was just talking to a lot of people around the building who might have been around at that point, and the media day turnout was tremendous, the excitement building for it. It's all kind of coming back, though. Here we are 11 years later. The circumstances in terms of media interest and so forth is much different than it was then. But it's really, really exciting, and it's great to be playing a highly skilled team like the Blackhawks. Certainly, they've been one of the most fun teams to watch for years in the NHL, and the Lightning certainly feel that they've got a style that's pretty fan-pleasing as well.
Exactly right, Rick. I'm a big fan of the Tampa Bay Lightning, watching their style of play. Very fast, very quick. The thing is, they've been considered an underdog in every round so far in the playoffs. How much does this team relish that underdog role? And obviously, they're going to be the underdogs going into this because they're facing the Chicago Blackhawks team that's won 2 Stanley Cups.
Yeah, they've beaten 3 100-point teams so far to get to this point, and including the President's Trophy winning New York Rangers. So they've been the underdog. They're comfortable with that. I think they like to feed off of that a little bit. So with their lack of experience and the vast experience that the Hawks have with all of their playoff success the last 7 years, this is something that I think the Lightning are going to be pretty comfortable with under the circumstances and dealing with the pressure that comes with the Stanley Cup playoffs, no matter what situation you're talking about.
Now, a name that many Lightning fans are familiar with, but those may not know, is Rick Bowness, who's a former player of the NHL, but is the associate coach of the Lightning, and he's been a very major person for John Cooper being named associate coach. Can you tell us how important Rick Bowness is to the Tampa Bay Lightning?
He sure has. There isn't anything that he hasn't seen in the NHL. He's just surpassed 2,000 games coaching in the NHL as an assistant, or he's been a head coach for a number of teams. So he's seen a lot. John Cooper is the first to tell you that he really has been a tremendous aid for him to learn the National Hockey League and to learn situations and players and how to deal with players at this level versus maybe at some of the lower levels. And just learning about the NHL and what to expect day in and day out, he has been absolutely invaluable to John Cooper and to this team's success.
You're listening to Out of Bounds on SportsTownChicago.com with Robert Tatka. With me at this time is Rick Peckham. He's the TV play-by-play announcer for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, Rick, last season, Victor Hedman was one of the few true defensemen on the Lightning. Steve Yzerman, he solidified the group in the offseason. Just how much of a difference has this unit been this season?
Great difference. Tremendous depth. It's not like they have a couple of guys like Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook, who have been there for 10 years and logged tremendous amounts of minutes. That's not the way they approach it. In fact, you go back to the early years that Steve Yzerman has run the Lightning, and I remember asking him about, what's your plan on defense? And he says, well, we hope to have a defense by committee, meaning that he wanted more depth. He wanted second and third pairs who were going to be able to play in a lot of different situations, not necessarily, one primary pair of guys who are going to play 25, 27 minutes a game. And in all those situations, he wanted to spread the workload around. And I think based on the people that he's brought in trades and drafting free agency with Strawman and Carl and Jason Garrison and so forth, they're all guys who have, for the most part in their careers, averaged 20 minutes a game, which tells you that they've been on the power play. They've been on the penalty kill. They have been matchup defensemen against the other team's top players, things like that. They've been in those situations, and what that does, not only spreads the ice time around so you don't get guys tired if you don't have a superhuman like Keith on your back line, it also helps you when guys get hurt, that you can plug people into situations and they're comfortable with it. And it's worked out very well.
Now, this team is a little inexperienced when it comes to playoff series, and a lot of times that's either an advantage or disadvantage for a team. Obviously, the Lightning, it's not been a disadvantage thus far. They've actually taken down 3 teams that have more playoff experience than them. Can they just keep this rolling now, going up against a team that has the most playoff experience of any of the teams that they're going to play this year?
Well, it will be their biggest challenge, and the fact that it's the Stanley Cup Finals, you would certainly expect that to be the case. But they've been able to gradually acclimate themselves to the new challenge. The fact that every round of the playoffs gets more intense, and you've got to deal with different challenges. They've been able to acclimatize themselves eventually, sometimes right off the bat. And I think this team is ready to go. I think they've had the time to rest up, heal up, and starting at home, I think that might be one of their narrow focus points right now, is to play better at home in this round than they have in the first round, the first three rounds where they've been 5-5 and had to rely on playing airtight defense and being very difficult to beat on the road. This is a team that won 32 home games in the regular season, so they expect to be better at home, and that might narrow their focus a little bit and take a little of the thinking away from just the overwhelming pressure of trying to win the Stanley Cup.
All right, Rick, now both these teams, the Blackhawks and Lightning, they are very fast teams, and because of that, a lot of the hockey analysts are believing this is going to be one of the more high-scoring Stanley Cup finals. But there's always that possibility. Ben Bishop, Corey Crawford, they can just show up at any moment and shut teams out. How do you see this Stanley Cup final playing out?
Well, I think there's going to be a fair number of goals scored, but I think the Lightning have learned finally what has been preached to them over and over and over all season long, and right from training camp. The theme for John Cooper was, we need to be better defensively. I believe they were around 15th in the league last year, and he said, we've got to be top 10. The teams that challenge for the Stanley Cup and win the Cup are always the best defensive teams. We need to be one of those teams. Well, it was a lesson that they really didn't absorb till the playoffs, where they got to crunch games like Game 7 against Detroit at home. Bishop shut out the Red Wings 2-0. He was a big part of that, obviously, but team defense in front of him was outstanding. And these two road shutouts to finish off the Rangers series in 5 and 7, you can't play any better defense than the team played in those two games. And as a result, Bishop ended up ending the series with a shutout streak of over 145 minutes on the road. So I think they have to play that way. They're going to try to limit the chances. We know Joel Quenneville and his team know their system very well. They can do the same thing, but there's just too much skill in each lineup that you're going to keep the shooters down for a whole series.
Okay, Rick, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning winning in 7 games. I just feel that even though it's going to be a back-and-forth series, the Lightning, they're just going to have what it takes, especially that home ice advantage, to come out on top. How do you see it going?
No disrespect to Joel Quenneville, I've known for a long, long time back to his Hartford playing days, and I used to be one of the announcers there, and Kevin Dineen and people like that.
Yep.
Have the utmost respect for them, and have rooted for the Hawks for a number of years in the playoffs with all their success. But I think Tampa Bay is going to win this in 6.
There you go. And actually, like Matt Salmon said to us yesterday, I understand who you get paid by, so it's okay to be biased if you're to pick the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Well, I just feel that the way things have lined up, and I was just talking to somebody at the rink a few minutes ago, when you look at teams that Ben Bishop has played very well against in his career, you start with Detroit. Montreal's record is extremely impressive. Mm-hmm. You look at his career record against the New York Rangers, and now the Chicago Blackhawks. He actually, I think, won the #1 goaltender job in Chicago at the United Center very early, not this season, but the season before, and he did so as I remember John Cooper vividly saying after the game, we stole 2 points, and that was a shootout win at the United Center early in the season. It might have been the Hawks' second home game, but Bishop has played extremely well against Chicago, and I think that's going to come out here again.
Rick, thank you very much for being able to join us here on SportsTownChicago.com as well as Out of Bounds with me, Robert Tatka. I'm always able to watch you on NHL Center Ice through DirecTV, and I know the Chief, he's actually retiring after this year. I wish him well on behalf of us here on SportsTownChicago.com, and good luck to you guys, and hopefully we'll be able to talk with you again in the future.
Look forward to it, Robert. Thank you very much.
That was Rick Peckham, television voice for the Tampa Bay Lightning on Fox Sports Sun. Thank you for listening to Out of Bounds here on SportsTownChicago.com. I am Robert Tatka, and tune in to Out of Bounds here on SportsTownChicago.com.